Okay, go ahead.
The regular June meeting of the Policy Committee of the University Interscholastic League is now in official session. For the record, it is approximately 9 a.m. on Wednesday, June 17, 2020. In accordance with the waiver to certain provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Act issued by Governor Greg Abbott on March 16, 2020, and in the interest of avoiding large gatherings and promoting social distancing during this pandemic, this meeting is being held via teleconference and is streaming live. Council, you've been automatically muted at the meeting start. You can unmute yourself at the bottom left-hand part of the screen when needed. Council members who have called in, please enter *6 to unmute or mute yourself. I am Aaron Hood, Superintendent of Robert Lee Independent School District. My fellow members of the Policy Committee are Joanne Bluda, Superintendent, Hallettsville ISD. Mark Henry, Superintendent, Cypress Fairbanks ISD. Todd Morrison, Superintendent, Honeygrove ISD. Steve Flores, Superintendent, Round Rock ISD. Walter Jackson, Superintendent, Brenham ISD. Keith Murphy, Superintendent, Melissa ISD. Marty Crawford, Superintendent, Tyler ISD. At this time, I certify that a quorum of the Policy Committee is present. Dr. Harrison, please introduce the UIL staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would like to start by giving my thanks to Dr. Brydup during this challenging time for his leadership. We have kept plugging away with you at the center of all of the decisions we've made and all of our efforts because Dr. Brydup has continued to insist on such. Canceling the seasons for the spring were very, very hard on all of us, and that decision hit Dr. Brydup particularly hard. I hope everyone knows that that's the last thing in the world we ever wanted to do. We continued to make plans to resume spring activities had the opportunity been given to us. The executive order issued by the governor closing school for the remainder of the 1920 school year took that option off the table for us, and that was very difficult on all of our UIL staff. But we really appreciate Dr. Brydup's leadership and continuing to remind us why we do this and why we need to keep developing plan after plan that unfortunately has ended up in the garbage. But just in case it's needed, they have been ready to go. All of those plans were made possible by a tremendous staff. Some of the council has already heard in other committee meetings from Dr. Susan Elza in athletics and Dr. Brad Kent in music and Dr. David Stevens in the academics department. I can assure you that they're tired of looking at me by Zoom because we met so often and so late and so early and so consistently, especially during those early weeks, to make sure we had plans ready to go. Greatly appreciate their leadership in the event-driven departments and making sure that we were able to respond to our members as much as possible in this unprecedented time. I use that word. Dr. Brydup will count how many times unprecedented gets used. All of those plans also, though, include people who are a part of making those plans happen that often don't get the credit, and I would like to point them out. Dr. Mark Cousins, who is a UIL staple, has been at the UIL for 100 years, it feels like, Mark, even though you're 32 years old, I think, has been tremendous in helping to write and review existing rules to make sure any plans that we develop are consistent with those. Dr. Kevin Jones has been right along in that process as well, serving to help write different portions of different plans to make sure that they work for schools, and in particular supervising the waiver department and our technology department, who obviously at this time has been critical to us, has really been a big part of what we've been able to continue to do despite the circumstances. Daryl Beasley, who continues to work with schools as we receive allegations and complaints and concerns from the public. As you can imagine, those have readily streamed in related to COVID-19 and what schools are and aren't doing, and providing his historical context and knowledge of how we've done things at UIL previously when we faced other challenges that might have elements that we can learn from and implement into these new plans has been very valuable. Another department you can imagine that has been pretty overrun over the last few months is our media department. And that department is supervised by our Chief of Staff, Kim Carmichael. Kim is sort of the Swiss Army knife of UIL. Whether we're talking about events or activities, or if we're talking about policy, or if we're working with the university in contracts, or in supervising all of the departments that she supervises, which includes a number of different departments that have had real challenges, our mail room and our media department. Kim has been tremendous throughout this time. And then I always have to thank Caroline Walls and Arlo Flores. Caroline puts everything together for you in this policy committee and is integral in the entire council process. And then Arlo in being a go-to guy, no matter what the task is. If it's, hey, we need somebody to run to the office and pick this up, or if it's put together a complicated spreadsheet and anywhere in between, Arlo's there willing and ready to serve. So thank you to all the UIL staff on the call and all the UIL staff that has been responsive throughout this challenging time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. And on behalf of the policy committee, I would like to echo what Dr. Harrison said. We appreciate everything the UIL has done, from joining ESC Service Center meetings and giving us updates as what everything they can do. We understand as superintendents creating a plan and within a day or two it being blown up because things change. So we appreciate the work that you put in and the time that you put in. So on behalf of the policy committee, I want to say thank you. Before proceeding, I'll give you instructions on voting. If you are connected on your computer, please click on participants at the bottom of your Zoom screen. A list of all participants will appear. At the bottom of the participant list, you should see options to click yes and no. Council members who have called in, please enter *9 if you would like to vote yes. Going forward, please leave your vote up until UIL staff has recorded the vote and cleared the responses. Do council members have any questions concerning how to vote? If not, we'll move to item B, adoption of meeting rules. Unless there is objection from the committee members, this meeting will be conducted in accordance with the 2019-2020 Constitution and contest rules. Hearing no objections, this is so ordered. Item C, adoption of the agenda. Unless there is objection from the committee members, the agenda for the business meeting shall be set out in the posted agenda unless otherwise announced by the chair. Hearing no objection, the agenda is officially adopted. Item D, approval of minutes. Members of the committee, you have previously been provided a copy of the minutes of the meeting of October 20th, 2019. I hope you've had a chance to review these minutes. Are there any corrections or revisions to the minutes as printed? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chair, Joanne Bluda, I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion to approve by Joanne Bluda. Do I have a second?
Second, Mark Henry.
Mark Henry with the second. At this time, will all committee members please vote?
Vote is unanimous.
The vote is unanimous. We shall proceed. Item E, statement of committee purpose. The purpose of today's committee meeting is to consider proposals for changes to the UIL Constitution and contest rules that have policy-related aspects. We will report recommendations of this committee to the Legislative Council at today's session. Committee members, you have in your materials a list of motions which are often appropriate. This committee may take any action permitted by the UIL rules, including any of those you see listed or any other motion a member wishes to make. This meeting is a business meeting of the committee and not a public hearing. Presentations may not be made by outside groups or individuals. The UIL director or a designated member of the UIL staff and council members not assigned to this committee shall be recognized to speak on any issue. Are there any questions? If not, we'll move to item F, old business. Pursuant to our agenda, the chair recognizes Jamie Harrison for presentation of old business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We actually do not have any old business from our prior meetings. I would, however, like to give Dr. Brydup an opportunity to make some comments. He will be making more comments at the full council meeting in a couple of hours that Susan Doherty has been working diligently to put together. This whole council process, from committee meetings through full council, is a team effort. Susan does a tremendous job in working with the whole council and getting that ready. So you'll have more from Dr. Brydup at the full council meeting, but would like to give Dr. Brydup an opportunity to make some comments at this time.
Just a quick comment. As you know, back on May 1st, the council gave the executive director of the UIL the opportunity and the authority to amend rules to get through this COVID-19 experience that we're dealing with. I'll share some of those with you at 11 o'clock. Most of those deal with things that you've already seen. I don't think there's anything shocking on any of it. But I want to say thanks again to all of you who work on these committees. The dedication that you show to the UIL is amazing to me. And I'm so encouraged by where we are now and where we're headed. It's been a bleak period of time over the last 2.5, 3 months, but we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel now. And my hope and prayers are that we are able to start on time and finish on time. And I'm not just talking about this meeting, I'm talking about our school year. So my thoughts are with you for the work you're doing back in your district. Thankful for our staff, as Dr. Harrison just mentioned, and I'll turn it back to him so we can move on through the new business.
Thank you, Dr. Brydup. Mr. Chair, with no old business, I believe we're ready to proceed to item G, new business.
Okay. Pursuant to our agenda, the committee now proceeds to new business. Jamie, is there any new business to consider?
Yes, sir. We have a number of proposals submitted by the public. The first of those is on your screen now. It's a proposal to use grades 8 through 11 to calculate enrollment figures for alignment purposes. This is not a new idea. It's an idea that we have discussed many times over the last, 100 years or so, and one that we will continue to discuss. So we're about to start a new alignment period with the coming school year. We will largely use that school year to talk about any changes for the following alignment 2 years after that. So our recommendation would be to allow staff to continue to monitor this proposal along with all things alignment as we move forward.
Committee, you've heard the proposal. Do I have a motion on this proposal?
I make a motion that UIL staff continue to monitor this situation. This Mark Henry.
Mark Henry.
Second, Marty Crawford, Tyler.
Mark Henry made the motion. Marty Crawford with the second. At this time, would committee members, please vote.
Vote is unanimous.
Vote is unanimous. We'll now move to item B.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a proposal to allow students who are attending non-traditional schools or in UIL rule non-disciplinary alternative schools that offer athletics, but not a particular sport that the student wants to compete in, to be able to compete in that individual sport back at their home campus. We have a number of rules already that provide for flexibility and eligibility for students who attend non-disciplinary schools. If they attend one that does not offer athletics at all, then they do have the opportunity to go to their home campus to participate in athletics. If their campus offers athletics, they compete for the school that they're attending. This is asking for sort of a split the difference model where they attend a school that has athletics, but they don't have a particular sport. Given that we have a number of rules that already allow for this, and we've twisted ourselves into a bit of a pretzel to provide opportunities for kids. This is one that we would like to continue to monitor. And if we find a need to bring it back to you in the future, we will. But we do think our current rules cover this in a sufficient manner.
You've heard the recommendation on this proposal. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we continue to monitor.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Todd Morrison will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, would the committee members, please vote?
Vote is unanimous.
The vote is unanimous, and so it passes. We now move to item C, a proposal to allow homeschool students to compete in sports.
Just as the chair described, that's what this proposal is suggesting, that we allow students who are homeschooled to compete at the campus that they would otherwise attend by residency. So everybody is fully aware of what UIL rules currently allow, especially in the current context. A student who is attending school remotely through your district is eligible to compete in UIL activities. This particular proposal would suggest that the student is learning in some way not through your district. So truly a homeschool student, not just a student receiving remote instruction. This is a proposal we've seen many times in the past, a proposal that has a tendency to be brought up in our state legislature, and one that our members have felt strongly about in opposition to. So we're happy to continue to monitor this particular proposal given the current context. We are also happy to hear any alternative motion that a committee member may wish to present.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark Henry. I move that we reject this proposal.
We have a motion by Mark Henry to reject the proposal. Do we have a second?
Second from Keith Murphy.
We have a second by Keith Murphy to reject the proposal. At this time, would all committee members please vote?
Motion passes.
The motion to reject passes. Now move to item D, a proposal for an online universal pre-participation packet.
Mr. Chairman, this is one that actually does not require council action. This is something staff has been reviewing and working to accomplish over the last 2 or 3 years as we continue to expand the capabilities within the UIL portal. It is much more complex than it may appear on the surface, but we hope you trust that this is something UIL would like to do. Anytime we can provide a tool that makes any sort of work, including managing forms, easier for our schools and for our parents and kids, we want to do that. So we would recommend no action on this, given that staff already has this capability and is currently working to accomplish that.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, so we will move on to item E, a proposal for a waiver of no pass, no play for students with disabilities.
So, Mr. Chairman, we had some proposals come in late, so there's been a little shuffle. So the proposal you see on your screen is not that one, but I will go ahead and address that one. We do have a proposal to modify no pass, no play. That particular proposal relates to state and federal law. As you can see on the proposal there, it's specific to students with disabilities. So this is a combination of state law, which is no pass, no play, and how that law applies to students with disabilities, which pulls in several federal laws. UIL simply does not have the authority to make these adjustments to law. So we recommend no action.
You've heard the recommendation from UIL staff to take no action. So we'll move on to item F. Is this the proposal to lift the Friday night broadcast rule?
It is. We actually have 2 of those.
Okay.
Dr. Brydup will cover this more thoroughly in the full council meeting. We recognize that there may or may not be capacity limitations on Friday night football games as we approach the fall. Even if there are not capacity limitations, we recognize that there will be schools in particular areas of the state that may need help managing the size of their crowds. And so one tool we hope to provide is the opportunity for Texans to continue to be able to enjoy the treasure in our state that is Texas high school football without necessarily having to do so in person. We're still working through how we're going to do that. And again, Dr. Bridle will cover that more in the full council meeting.
Okay. And for those that didn't know, we had an earlier council meeting where we did give some flexibility to the UIL and Dr. Bridle to make some changes as needed due to COVID-19. And so that's where this is going to fit in. So we look forward to hearing what he has to say in the full council. We'll move on to the next item, which is a proposal for a 2020-21 high school football schedule due to COVID-19.
Mr. Chairman, the next series of proposals, with your permission, I will cover sort of one after the other very quickly, because all of them are proposals that are specifically related to COVID-19. As you mentioned, the council's already taken action, granting additional authority to Dr. Bridle to address these types of issues. As you also know, this is an issue that is continually changing. And so making decisions too early is difficult, because as the time that the decision actually comes into effect for the beginning of the school year, the situation has changed, and we would need to go ahead and make more adjustments. So we will adjust as needed, using the additional authority you've granted to Dr. Bridle for all of the following. This proposal, which proposes a very specific high school football schedule format. The next proposal asks to grant, and we have another one that's a little different later. This one asks to grant a 5th year of eligibility to high school seniors who were not able to complete their seasons at the end of this past school year. We have the following proposal, which requests that we suspend all 2020 UIL spring activities or undo that decision. And we're obviously past that time. The next proposal relates to changes in students changing schools. Caroline, if you can move to the next one. Well, that actually applies to facilities and keeping gyms closed. The following proposal asks that students specifically in grade 7 and 8 be able to repeat grade 7 or 8 without any eligibility ramifications. For that particular proposal, I will tell you, we already have rules that address that. It is against the rules to repeat grade 7 or 8 for athletic purposes. Repeating grade 7 or 8 for purposes other than athletics does not impact eligibility. So we actually already have rules that address that particular proposal. The next is another 5th year of eligibility proposal specific to students competing in UIL academic competitions. And that is all of those that relate to COVID-19. So for all of those, we would request that the committee consider taking no action, given that the committee has already addressed items like all of those through the resolution previously passed, allowing the additional authority to Dr. Bridle to make adjustments as needed.
Okay. You've heard the recommendation from UIL staff on all these COVID-19 related proposals. Are there any objections to taking no action? If not, we'll move to the next proposal.
And Caroline, and help me if I'm wrong, I believe that's all the proposals.
Correct. We have covered all proposals.
Yes, so that's the no pass, no play proposal, which we covered earlier in the agenda. So Mr. Chairman, that is all the proposals. I would like to echo Dr. Bridle's thanks to you guys for your commitment as committee members to UIL, and also for your commitment to UIL activities as superintendents and leaders in your own community. Please know we fully recognize the challenges you're facing and the stresses that you're under currently as you try to do what's best for your kids and your community and keep them safe and keep them educated all at the same time. So thank you for staying with us on all of this. Again, Dr. Bridle will have a much more thorough update here in the next hour and a half or so when we convene the full council.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. At this time, we'll move to item H, announcements. Are there any announcements prior to the conclusion of this meeting?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark Henry, and I guess this is more of a question for Dr. Brydup or Dr. Harrison. I was preparing for a board meeting yesterday and did not get to watch athletics. Was there any discussion related to officials' fees for the coming year? I know several superintendents have reached out to me because of all of the issues finance related about increased official costs. So I was just seeing if there had been a discussion on that, or if that needs to be discussed here. It'll be discussed at the main meeting.
Dr. Henry, that can be discussed during the meeting tomorrow because there is a proposal regarding an amendment that went through athletics. There wasn't any discussion from any of the committee members to suspend that pay increase, but that doesn't mean it can't come up in the discussion tomorrow when athletics sends their proposal forward.
And I don't know that I'm proposing that. I just want to know if there had been any discussion because as you know, leading your organization and all of us leading our organizations, there is some financial concerns, not just for the 2021 school year, but moving forward, even into the next biennium. So just a thought, just want to see if it had been discussed.
Dr. Henry, so it was discussed, but as Dr. Brydup said, that there was no one suggested suspending it. They did bring up the financial concerns and talked about, how long it had been since they had seen an increase. And they did talk about, there's a second $5 increase for the following year that has not come to council yet. And I think that one will get much more scrutiny. So it was discussed slightly, but there was no mention from, as Dr. Brydup said, from any of the committee members on suspending it.
Okay, thank you.
Do any other committee members have any announcements or any questions? Unless there is objection, the regular June meeting of the Policy Committee of the University Interscholastic League is now adjourned. Thank everyone for attending. We appreciate your time.
Congratulations to Dr. Hood. He just chaired his first policy committee meeting and did so in a very succinct and effective manner. Great job, Mr. Chair.
Congratulations also to Daryl. He's looking good with that mustache and goatee.